Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. I hope all of you are doing good today. So let's start our topic. What is an epic? Epic. If I ask you what is an epic, some of you might say it's a collection of users' stories. Okay. Other might say it is in a characteristic or say it's a way to manage tasks. So it's a way to manage tasks. All these are partly correct, but let's really unpack it to understand what an epic truly is in software development and agile methodology. So imagine you are building an application or working on a project. Okay? Think of all the individual features that need to come together to make all the application functional and purposeful for the user. These individual features like login, search, or payment gateway are often grouped under a large purpose. So the larger purpose or container is called an epic. But let's not just define it, we'll dive deep into it to make it more relatable. So every company works epic by epic. Why? Because in a product backlog, all the user stories are scattered randomly. So like user story one, user story two, etc. To organize them and prioritize what's essential for the user, we group this user story into epics. Imagine you are developing an e-commerce app like Amazon. Think about all the steps a user needs to complete an action, like buying a product. It wouldn't make sense for a developer to build features randomly, like the footer first, then a payment gateway, without creating the essential steps like login, then product search, add to cart, etc. This random approach would confuse the user and leave the application unusable. So an epic ensures that all tasks are grouped together, and the workflow follows a meaningful sequence. It enables us to answer the question, what does the customer want to do, and how can we make it possible? Okay, so let's break it down with an example. Imagine you are building an app for an online shopping platform. The user journey might involve this action like registration and login, search for product, then adding product, then check out and make payment. Each of these actions represents a specific purpose that the app serves for the user. These purposes are your epics. So epic one can be user account management. It can include user registration and login. Epic 2 can be product discovery, where the user will be able to search for a product. And the Epic 3 can be shopping cart and checkout. It involves the cart operation and the payment. Okay. Now let's talk about why we break these tasks into epics. So we break these tasks into epics so that developers can focus on building end-to-end workflows for each purpose rather than tackling disconnected user stories. It ensures the app serves the end user purpose effectively. So to make it relatable, let's think of an epic like a chapter in a book. So chapter. Each chapter has a main idea or theme. The theme is the epic. Within the chapter, there are individual sections or paragraphs. Uh, so individual sections that are user stories. They contribute to the theme. For example, if the book is about launching an e-commerce app, one chapter might be setting up the user account. Within the chapter, you will find section like creating a new account, logging in securely, and managing account setting. Sorry, let's fix it. Managing the account settings. So, what's the importance of a sequential workflows? Um, let's circle back to our e-commerce example. Imagine if the developer built features out of sequence, say they created a footer and the payment gateway first, but skipped login and product search. Would a customer be able to use the app effectively? Absolutely not. App must have end-to-end workflow, meaning features are built in a logical sequence that mirrors how a user interacts with the app. Without this, the customer experience would be chaotic and frustrating. For instance, the user must register and log in. Then they search for product. Then the product are added to their cart. After that, they can finally check out and pay. So the user must register and log in. Then they search. After that, they add product. Then they check out. These are the process. By grouping these user stories in Epic, teams can ensure this logical progression. Okay. Now let's consider another scenario, the ATM. You know the ATM, right? The machines. Think about what a user does with an ATM. To create an application for an ATM, we first identify the user's purpose. Each of the purposes become an epic. So, what are the user's purpose? The users maybe want to withdraw cash or deposit money or check balance. So, we can say that the cash withdrawal can be epic 1, the deposit can be epic 2, balance inquiry can be epic 3. Now, within cash withdrawal, there are several user stories. Like, so within cash withdrawal, there are several user stories like um, uh, insert ATM card, enter PIN, choose withdrawal, select account type, and input the amount and confirm. All these steps contribute to the overall epic of the withdrawal case. So all of these are epic. Wow. So why are epic essential for the agile teams? Epics are essential because it helps team focus on the user's purpose. It break large complex projects into manageable parts. It also ensure workflows are logical and customer centric, and it align development work with business goals. Without Epic, teams might get lost in the details of individual user stories without seeing the bigger picture. So, in simple terms, an epic is what a user does and what they do it, why they do it. It's based on the purpose of the app and the needs of the user. So remember, every app or system is created for a purpose, whether it's helping users shop, communicate, or access services. Each epic represents a slice of that purpose, making the app both functional and meaningful. So, so why do we use ATMs? As a user, the main tasks we perform with an ATM can include, as I said, withdraw cash, deposit cash. The withdrawal cash is the most basic and common purpose, and the deposit cash is to like add funds to your account conventionally. Then um, transfer transfer money to move funds between different accounts. Then checking balance. Then whereas you can quickly verify how much money you have, then generating receipts so that printing receipts for any of the above transactions. Then you can also change your PIN for your security purpose. Then check fees like if there is any fee for the ATM. Then verify card to ensure your card works properly. These tasks collectively form what we call epics, the larger objectives or purposes that users achieve by using an ATM. So every epic can be broken down into smaller, more specific tasks or scenarios. For example, as I said, withdrawing money might involve inserting a card, entering a PIN, selecting an account, entering the withdrawal amount, receiving a cash and a receipt. So, what's the job of a tester here? A tester's primary responsible may include tester's job. His job may include understanding and analyzing. So they deeply understand the purpose of the ATM and its functionalities. Then identify test scenarios. They explore all possible ways a user can interact with an ATM. Then they can uncover risk by predicting and identifying possible bugs or failures. And they create test case by designing steps to thoroughly test each scenarios. For example, a tester must think about negative scenarios too, like what happens if the user enters the wrong pin multiple times? What if the ATM runs out of cash? What if the card gets stuck in the machine? What if the power goes out mid-transactions? A good tester puts themselves in the user's shoes to anticipate what not just the user standard users but also rare or problematic situations. Let's say we are focusing on the withdrawal epic. Here's how you'd approach it. So, um, for withdrawal, let's talk about test scenario one, which is successful withdrawal. Here the user insert card, enter the PIN, select withdraw, chooses account type, enter the amount, collect cash, and take the receipt. Then test scenario 2, which is card not recognized. So here, if they insert a faulty or invalid card, the ATM should display an error message saying card not recognized. Then test scenario 3, which is insufficient balance. Excuse me. So after entering an amount greater than the account balance, the ATM should display an error message like saying insufficient balance. Okay. Then for test scenario 4, which is PIN verification failed. After entering an incorrect PIN multiple times, the ATM should lock the card and notify the user. Card block, contact your bank. And the final scenario 5, which is receipt not printed. After a successful transaction, simulate a printer malfunction where the ATM should display unable to print receipt. Did you know that ATMs didn't always have all the features? Initially, their sole purpose was to withdraw money. So why? Because developers or businesses follow an agile methodology. where systems are built incrementally. So they focus on the most essential feature first, like cash withdrawal. Then they gradually introduce other features like deposits, transfer, balance inquiry, etc. Now let's think about you as a tester would identify and create scenarios for an ATM. So, like for positive scenario, I'm sorry, scenarios. It can be withdraw successful, where the user withdraws the money successfully. Then the second one can be the user deposits money to their account. Then he can the another positive scenarios can be the user can check balance. Okay. Then comes the negative scenarios. Here the user enters the wrong PIN. Then the ATM runs out of cash, no cash. Then the card gets stuck into the machine. Each of these scenarios will have specific steps, expected outcomes, and test cases to ensure that the ATM works flawlessly. So, as a tester, your ultimate goal is to ensure that the ATM works as intended for every user interaction. You catch and report bugs before users experience them. Then you identify even the smallest potential issues. So, to become a successful tester, you should understand the requirements thoroughly. Leave no room for confusion. So, to become a successful tester, you should understand requirements. Then you should think creatively, like how different problem can you expect and how to solve them critically. Then approach as a user. You should always approach testing with the mindset of a user and a builder. This structured approach not only ensures the reliability of the ATMs, but also highlights the critical role testers play in delivering seamless user experiences. Great testing leads to happy users, which is the ultimate goal. So the steps to identify scenarios from Epics are like, for example, Epic is withdraw money. The goal is to help users withdraw money efficiently and smoothly. And the second one can be scenario identification process. Like start by asking what the user checks or does at each step. Think like the end user to cover practical scenarios and exceptions. So, for the scenarios of withdraw money, Uh, First one can be system activation, then card availability and insertion, then pin entry and button check, then option selection, then amount selection, bill note selection, receive option, transaction, feedback, um, then card and money retrieve and log out. So in system activation, you should ensure the ATM machine is working. Then the screen should be responsive. Then after that, in the second one, you should confirm the user has their card. So, mm, so, and the second one is you should ensure that the user insert their has their card and verify the card insertion port is functional. Then comes the ensuring the pin pad buttons work properly and they validate the enter pin. And in the fourth one, we should confirm that the user can select withdraw money. Then you should check other options like deposit money are not interfering. Then in amount selection, you should validate input for the withdrawal amount and ensure error handling for insufficient funds. After that, you should allow users to choose denominations like 100, 20, etc. Then, in the receipt option, you should validate the option for a receipt, paper in a paper or email. Then, in transaction feedback, you should ensure a message confirms that the transaction is successful or failure. Then in card and money retrieval, you should ensure that the card is ejected first and verify the money slot releases the cash correctly. After that, the user is ensure that the user logs out properly. Okay. Now let me show you something. So here are some user stories. Okay. You can see that as a customer. I want to log into my account using card and PIN code so that I can perform the transactions. So what are the acceptance criteria here? The acceptance criteria is so the acceptance criteria is the system must validate the card and the PIN code. Then each then in case customer enters wrong PIN code three times, then the system locks the card. Then in the second user stories, as a customer, I want to check the balance of my account so that I can perform transactions. Here the acceptance criteria are customers need to be logged in before checking the balance and balances are displayed. Then in the third user stories, as a customer, I want to deposit the cash in my bank account through ATM so that I may save my time and perform transactions later. So here the customers need to log in before depositing the cash. The system should verify the amount of cash deposited by checking with the user. If the user doesn't agree, then the system ejects back the cash. If okay, the account balance is updated and displayed. Then in the fourth one, as a customer, I want to deposit check in my bank account through ATM so that I can save my time and perform transaction better. So here, the customer needs to log in before depositing check. System should verify the amount written on the deposit check by asking the user. If the user doesn't agree, then the system ejects back the check. If okay, then the account balance is updated or displayed. So, so if the Epic is withdraw money, here it can be as a user, I should be able to withdraw money from an ATM so that I can access my funds conveniently and securely anytime. And the Epic, if the Epic is check balance, so as a user, I should be able to check my account balance at an ATM to monitor my funds and confirm the availability of sufficient funds for transaction. So let me show you something else. Here you can see different Epic name summaries. Okay. Now, the some of the column names are epic name summary, description, scenarios, user story ID, user stories, status ID, acceptance criteria. Okay, so in epic name summary, you can say that a user should withdraw money from an ATM so that they can easily use it anytime and fund transfer from bank to bank smoothly. Then another epic name can be an user should check balance from the ATM booth so that they can easily get their information from the existing funds. Or it can be card is working or not, change the PIN or not, check deposit, check the withdrawal fee, etc. So So you can write those epic name in the epic name summary. And in description, you can provide details, different details of that epic. Then in test scenarios, you verify system activation, card insertion, pay entry, etc. Then in then in acceptance criteria, it's if the acceptance criteria it says the success message, card returned, money withdrawn correctly, etc. And the status ID is auto-generated by Jira or any other similar tool. Okay, so so for example, if for a scenario like card insertion, you verify card insertion port functionality. In test step, you check if the port is clean and accessible, insert a valid card, verify the system detects the card and proceeds. In acceptance criteria, the system accepts the card without errors. Cardholder information is displayed. Then the next steps are test case design, test case design, then execution and documentation and iterate with template. In test case design, you create a detailed test cases from the scenarios. Each test case will have test ID, description, steps, expected result, actual result, and status like pass or fail. In execution and documentation, test each step in the system or simulation. Record results and deviations, if there are any. Then iterate with templates, like update and refine the template with additional scenarios and exceptions. So a common question is, should we buy, you can ask that if you should we buy a subscription for Excel? The answer is no. Why would you buy a subscription when we already have a test case template? I have uploaded the template for you and you will work on it. Excel in most cases can be used for free with the right setup. Okay. If you are using Windows, there are ways to access Excel without a paid subscription. Sometimes educational accounts or basic versions offer free access. For Mac users, there might be limitations. You might need a subscription for full functionality. So we recommend using Windows because it aligns with the tools and such systems we'll use in the real world scenarios. So you can consider switching to Windows for a smoother workforce. If you must use a Mac, ensure you've installed all necessary tools. But understand this may lead to challenges later. Okay. Now let me show you this. Mhm. Suppose here we are working on the withdrawal process. So let's work through test cases for the ATM withdrawal process. Here's how we organize feature titles, scenarios, and steps. So, in scenario one, um, so let's talk about it. In scenario one, for the withdrawal process, you should check system activity by test if the ATM is functional. Is the screen active? Do you see advertisement or prompts? Are buttons or Our buttons are perfectly working or not, etc. Okay. Now, also check the test screen responsiveness. So system should display an active screen or error message if it is non-functional. Then you should check the card insertion slot. You should insert the card into the slot. Verify if the screen prompt for PIN entry. Check if an invalid expired card is rejected with an appropriate error message. So the card should work as intended, displaying appropriate prompts or rejecting invalid cards. Now that we discussed the scenarios, let's look at how to structure them at Excel. So here we can see that the feature titles are there are feature titles, test scenarios, test steps, and expected results. Let me show you that. Um, Here we can see that. Okay. So this ATM test case involves an ATM machine used by a customer. For this scenario, we are discussing a situation where a customer is inserting a bank card into the ATM, which may not necessarily be from the same bank the ATM belongs to, and how the ATM behaves with the cards from different banks. So ATM machine from Bank of America. Although this ATM is a specific bank, say Bank of America, we need to consider how it will behave when a customer inserts a card from a different bank. Different bank issues different cards, and these cards may or may not be compatible with the ATM system. Therefore, it is essential to ensure the ATM behaves correctly when a card from a different bank is used. Then comes the system behavior. The ATM may charge a fee for a transaction made with an act out of network. This behavior depends on the ATM system's configuration and the user's card network. Then, in error handling, the ATM might either charge a fee for the transaction, deny the transaction with an error message stating that the card is not supported, return the card without processing anything. So the user must be aware of the different outcomes and how to handle them. So it is essential to determine how the ATM should behave when a non-bank card is inserted. Should it allow the transaction? Will there be an error message? How will it inform the user about the potential fees? Then, if a card is inserted, it should provide clear feedback, like asking for PIN, error message, or informing the user about transaction fee. Okay, now, now for the test steps. You can see here their test steps. In test steps, the customer checks if the ATM is working. Then the customer pulls the card out from their wallet. Then the customer will navigate the ATM booth and stop in front of the machine. Okay? And in step two, for card insertion, the customer should insert the valid card. The ATM should respond correctly based on whether the card is from a compatible bank or not. If the card is compatible, the ATM should move to the next step without charging additional fees or returning the card. If the card is not compatible, an error message should appear on the screen or the ATM may return the card to the customer. So either the ATM accepts the card and proceeds or returns it with an error message. So you can see that this one. Okay. So here are you can see the expected results, achieve actual results and status. Then in step three, it can be the error handling with a different bank's card. If the card from a different bank is inserted, the ATM may show an error message saying card is not supported. Mm, or card is the ATM doesn't support your bank's card. So the expected results are the ATM should either return the card with a warning message or provide the option to continue with the fee if the ATM allows such transactions. So if an error message is shown, the customer can either choose to proceed with the transaction if a fee is involved or cancel the transaction and retrieve the card. Then can come the valid card insertion. The customer inserts a valid card matching the bank's network. The ATM should display options like enter new PIN, okay, or proceed with transaction. So if the card is accepted, the ATM should ask for the PIN code and show message like please enter your PIN. In step 5, PIN code verification, the customer enters the PIN. If the PIN is correct, the ATM should allow the user to continue with the transaction. If the PIN is incorrect, an error message should be displayed. So there can be two possible outcomes. One is that if the PIN is correct and the transaction proceeds, or if the PIN is incorrect, the ATM displays an error requesting the user to try again. Now, once the correct PIN is entered, the ATM should proceed to the next step, which may involve confirming the transaction type like withdrawal, balance check, etc. So the ATM should display the transaction options and ask for confirmation from the user. Okay. So after that, for error scenarios and handling, like invalid card inserted, pin code error, transaction completion. If a card from a different bank is inserted, and the ATM doesn't support it, it may either reject the card, display a message like card is not supported, or return the card or charge a fee. In some cases, the ATM might allow transaction but charge a fee. In such a case, the ATM should correctly notify the customer about the fee before proceeding. Then in pin code error, if the user enters the wrong pin multiple times, the ATM should log the user out and display an error message like incorrect pin, try again. The customer should be informed of how many attempts are allowed before the card is blocked. Then for the transaction completion, if the ATM successfully processes the transaction, the customer should receive the requested cash receipt or transaction summary. So the expected result can be the ATM should return the card after the transaction is complete. So mm, for status logging, there are two status like pass and fail. If the ATM functions correctly as expected and the test case is marked as pass, if the ATM fails to behave according to the requirements, for example, it doesn't display the error message, it doesn't charge the expected fee, or it returns the wrong card, the test case is marked as a fail. So this test case is designed to verify the basic functionality of an ATM, particularly on how it handles card insertion, uh, fees processing, and error messages when a customer uses a card from a different bank. The steps above ensure that, so the steps we have discussed above ensures that all scenarios, including expected and unexpected behaviors, are thoroughly tested and validated. So, do you understand till now what I have taught? Do you need any elaboration? If not, we can move on to the next part. Okay, so wait a minute. So, as a customer, I want to log into my account. Now, as we have been working through this, have we really gone through the requirements or have we just working from our common sense? Imagine what might happen from an end user perspective. It's really important to clarify this as analyzing the requirements is a crucial part of the process. Now let's take a closer look at the automation example. You'll see there's some bold terms in the requirements like login, check balance, deposit cash, etc. Each of these can be treated as its own scenarios. For example, as a customer, I want to log into my account using a card and PIN code so that I can perform transactions. This is a specific scenario we are going to focus on login. At this point, we are zeroing in on the login scenario. But before we even start thinking about test cases, we need to consider uh, the negative scenarios that might come up during login. The acceptance criteria, which we'll look into at a moment, help guide us here. They specify that the system needs to validate the card and the PIN code. And if the customer enters the wrong PIN code 3 times, the system locks the card. But let's hold off on the acceptance criteria for now. The key takeaway here is that the acceptance criteria are here to guide us when writing the test case. But before that, we should focus on thinking through what might go wrong during the login. Let's brainstorm some test cases for login. The first thing that comes to our mind is logging in with the correct PIN code. That's a positive test case. But we also need to consider all the negative scenarios. What if the customers enters the wrong PIN? What if the card is expired? So for positive case, log in with correct PIN. Now the negative case one can be log in with a expired card. Excuse me. Then the second one negative case two can be log in with a wrong PIN code. Then negative case three can be using a valid card but incorrect PIN. Negative case four can be too many attempts. If the user makes too many incorrect PIN attempts, causing the system to lock the card, then for negative case for negative case 5, inserting the card in the wrong way so that the machine can read it properly. Then the negative case 6, removing card before the system finishes reading it. Once we figured out the test cases, we need to move on to the next step, writing the test case step. This is where we start documenting exactly how to test the case scenarios. We'll use a test case template for this, which will be based on Jira, a tool we'll use for tracking issues. This template is where we'll detail the test step scenarios and expected results. So let's go back to the login scenario to walk through how we structured this. For example, For the test case name, you write something like validate login is successful with a valid PIN card. In description section, you'd explain exactly what we are testing for. It might look something like this, that this test case verifies that the user can log into their account using a valid card and PIN code. For the test data, this is where you need a specific data like card number and PIN. Ideally, we will get this data from the developer or the test team. If this data is not available during the pre-refinement phase, we will need to spend some time gathering it. Okay? Once you've got the test data, you can start writing out the test steps and executing the test cases based on the scenarios. Each test case has a unique ID that helps you track and manage it. So for the login scenario, it can be like TC login 001. So for the login scenario, it can be like TC login 01. And when you start using Jira, you see how everything connects. The test case IDs, requirements, and acceptance criteria all fit into the bigger picture. You use the template to write the test steps and then link them to the corresponding Jira issues once those are created. The whole process helps to keep everything organized as you move through testing. So here is the template. You can see that, right? So it has test scenarios, test cycle, requirement ID, test case ID, test case name, description, test data, prerequisite, test steps, expected results, actual results, then scenario type and priority. So the so in the pre-refinement session, do the developers build the data? No, they don't. They haven't manufactured the feature space. So how they are going to so what are we talking about here? So are they going to provide you with the data? How will they give you the card and the necessary codes if the features haven't been developed yet? You are only going to get the information from the developers or the testing team after the pre-refinement session. Right after that, you don't have all the data in your hands. Do you get my point? So tell me, do you get all the information right after the pre-refinement session? Logically, no. It doesn't work that way. I mean, if the key isn't manufactured it, how can you unlock the door? For example, if you have a locked door and the key hasn't been made, can you unlock it? No. The resource here is the key, but the key isn't ready. You can't unlock the door without it. Similarly, test data are the resources we need. But if the product isn't ready, how can they give you the resources? Do you get my point now? So they will only be able to provide the data once the development starts. When they start the developing the features, the test data will come on so that we'll test. What will the test data look like? What do they need to test? What information do they need? So let me show you. For the login features, here are the scenarios for the login feature. For example, they need a valid card and a valid PIN code. Let's say the PIN code is 1234. Okay, so in test data, you can see that the PIN is 1234. Here is also written the test case ID. Here it is the test case ID. Okay, so the test case ID, then the requirement ID, then the test case name like validating login successful with a valid PIN code. Then you should discuss the test description, the test data like the login code, and the prerequisite, what should we need before the test. Now, what can be the prerequisites for running the test? The prerequisite could be something like this. The ATM should be functional and it should be in working condition. Okay? So, I guess I have made you understand all this. We have covered quite a bit today, and we have to cover another topic to finish. So we'll finish it in the next class. We'll dive straight into the class, cover this topic first, then move on to the next topic, okay? Meanwhile, you should look into the template and figure out how this works from the example I've given. All right? Now, that's it for today. See you in the next class. Till then, take care of yourself. All right? Bye.